Hey guys, I know it's been a minute. Maybe you missed me. Don't tell me if you didn't. But today we're going to talk about Katseye. But not only are we going to talk about Katseye, we're going to throw it back a little bit and also get into the Cheetah Girls. I cannot tell you how or why this topic popped into my head, but something in my brain clicked. They have a lot in common. So today we're going to do a little compare, a little contrast, and just have fun. This is an unserious video, so just please be normal. I love the Cheetah Girls down. I'm starting to get into Katseye, so like I said, this is all for fun. But if you know that you're going to be, how dare you say that Cheetah Girls have anything in common with Katseye? How dare you say this millennial thing is in any way similar to this Gen Z thing? This may not be the video for you. I'll see you next time. But anyway, Katseye, Cheetah Girls, let's get into both. So the first thing that I noticed both these groups have in common is that they similarly have a feline, a cat-like name. Almost anytime I'm thinking the Cheetah Girls, I think of that clip of Raven as Gabriela saying, "We're named the Cheetah Girls because they are the fastest and the fiercest animal in the jungle."
The Elephant Girls.
Pasta, Derek. You too, Mackerel. You know, we call ourselves the Cheetahs because the cheetah is the fastest and the fiercest feline in the jungle. Let's bounce, girls.
And yes, technically they are often wearing leopard print instead of cheetah print, and that's because the Cheetah Girls are actually inspired by author Deborah Gregory's love for cheetah print, and a lot of what we consider to be cheetah print is actually leopard, but real. I love cheetah/leopard print as well. And then for Katseye, I remember back when they unveiled this name thinking this was a really good group name. It's fun, it's aggressive, it's feminine, it's catchy, just 2 syllables. And apparently they got to come up with their own name, which I feel is rare for a K-pop group in general. But I'm sure this is part of where they're technically not K-pop comes into play, because it's very, very common for a Western group to choose their name. And the name was chosen to represent the group's talent and diversity. And then, of course, we have that feline girl power. For some reason, it also gives me a Huntress vibe. But of course, Katseye is the name of a gemstone. So, of course, it adds a little glam to it, a little trendiness when we're thinking about the Katseye nails and the Katseye beads, aside from the gemstone. And then aside from the talent and diversity, or in tandem with, I should say, Katseye, the gem, the nails, the beads, anything with that Katseye effect, when you look at it from different angles, you might see slightly different colors, a slightly different version of what you're looking at, and the members like to relate that to their own unique qualities and origins. And then not only did the group choose the name Katseye, it was member Laura's idea to spell Katseye with a K instead of a C to stylize it a little bit, which I also really do like. And then I know we're talking about Katseye, but naming the group Katseye to reflect the uniqueness, my brain was thinking, we make up one big family, but we don't look the same. Our spots are different colors. We make each other stronger. That ain't never gonna change, you know, to tie it back into the Cheetah Girls. Then also relating into this, for both groups, so we're going to start with the Cheetah Girls yet again. Major selling point for this group is their multiculturalism. Gabriela is Black and Italian. Chanel is Puerto Rican, I believe, in the film versions. But I think in the book, she's Puerto Rican, Dominican, I believe something else. The description seemed like she was Afro-Latina in the books. Aqua is Black, so is her twin. In the book, she has a twin. And then Dorinda is white passing, or white, just I'm assuming, in the movies. In the books, it seems like she's mixed, like half black, half white. But if you're thinking what I'm thinking, in that first Cheetah Girls movie, even though the actress herself is half Mexican, there's a moment, because Dorinda, I believe she's a foster child, so she's like, I don't know what my background exactly is. So they kind of left the door open. So not confirmed, but at least in the movie universe, you could also say that, at least based on the actress, Doe is a Latina.
We're not talking about the same thing, Chanel.
So you're half black. You've seen Galeria's mom and dad. And I'm a little bit of every kind of Spanish pepper, girl. Shoot, Miss America has 10 bloodlines.
No.
Yo, we're all mixed up in this jiggy jungle together. Join the club, girlie.
Can you just wait for a second? I'm not black and I'm not half black. I'm not even white. I don't even know what I am.
And thinking musically for the Cheetah Girls, I feel like the multiculturalism is really integral to their self-acceptance, and those themes, of course, are in their songs. And I do think they definitely embrace other cultures in their music. It would be really hard to argue that they don't. But I did notice that while they often very obviously take pride in their own cultures, their own heritage, they don't necessarily showcase that specifically in a lot of the songs. Like, for example, for the second movie, they go to Barcelona. And the culture that they're basically embracing is the culture of Chanel's soon-to-be stepdad. But Luke, I believe his name is, as well as Chanel's nuclear family, they obviously have the Spanish language in common. And then them having Spanish in common, if you've seen the movie, I'm sure you know, that's used as a plot point when Marisol's mom tries to isolate Chanel from the rest of the Cheetah Girls. And then from that movie, we definitely get songs that have some Spanish in them, like Amigas Cheetahs. How could I not mention that? We also have parts of Strut, and then we also have the song A la Nanita Nana, which is entirely in Spanish, and Marisol and Chanel sing that song. But it hit me, thinking about this, working on this video, the only characters who sing in Spanish in that movie, actual phrases, not just the Amigas Cheetahs chorus, they are the characters who spoke Spanish prior to the events of the movie, like Marisol, Angel, and Chanel. Something I noticed that I don't think I would have ever caught before. And going off of that, the third Cheetah Girls adaptation, called Cheetah Girls One World, they go to India. So of course they're incorporating a lot of references to Bollywood in the movie's promo and marketing. And they're like, yes, of course in this movie we're going to talk about Indian music and culture in movies, because that's basically the plot of the movie. They're shooting a Bollywood movie. But racking my brain and then going back and referencing the track list or the soundtrack for that movie, all of the songs are in English. All of the lyrics are in English. So we don't even get to learn a few words in a different language. And it's not even, I don't believe it's even stated what native language the characters speak, because there are several to choose from in India. And of course, these are kids' movies from the 2000s. So I'm not saying the Cheetah Girls needed to be ambassadors to India for me on my couch. But obviously, like an opportunity or two was missed. But I do remember that they definitely did some cultural dance commercials, to promote the movie, probably while the movie was also airing. So it's not entire lashings. All was not lost. Then outside of the Cheetah Girls movies and soundtracks, we cannot forget about Fuego. This was not related to a movie, but it's a single from their sophomore album, TCG, which stands for the Cheetah Girls. The song's title is Spanish for fire, which might lead you to believe that there are more Spanish lyrics in the song than there are. But there aren't really many, other than the repeated phrase como fuego, or like fire, talking about how, they're gonna light up the dance floor. And peppered in, we do get a few siempres and baila conmigos here and there. And if the song does sound familiar, that's because it interpolates Lionel Richie's 80s hit All Night Long. And that's actually what a lot of the Spanish parts of the song are referencing. Then, of course, looking at Katseye, again, that multiculturalism is a major selling point. Often when you hear the group's name, it is followed by or preceded by the phrase global girl group. And in this instance, it's going to refer to a group formed with contestants from all over the world, more or less, but they're using that survival show format that's been popularized in South Korea. And Katseye is signed jointly to the labels Hybe and Geffen, which I've seen recently kind of just portmanteaued as hyphen. But anyway, for all intents and purposes, they are a pop group releasing music mainly in English, formed in the way that several K-pop groups have been formed. And this seemed like the logical next step for record labels to try out after K-pop became globally popular, and as a result, started appealing to more Western and in other cases just more global audiences in general. Initially, this took the form of some K-pop groups including more English lyrics into their songs, following more Western trends as time went on, and then some companies just simply asking the question, what if we take the marketing aspects of K-pop that get people attracted and hooked, dare I say addicted, and we use those to promote other sorts of pop groups? Will we be able to break into other music markets with this K-pop formula? Seemed like a pretty safe bet, especially when you also consider that, especially in the West, especially like United States, United Kingdom, music groups have been on a steep decline for over a decade. So definitely a gap in the industry that labels and consumers alike have been trying to fill. And when it comes to Katseye, multiculturalism almost feels like an understatement. And to give you a quick rundown, Sophia is from the Philippines, Yunche was born in Korea, Manon was raised in Switzerland to Swiss, Italian, and Ghanaian parents. And then we have 3 American members, Daniela, who has Venezuelan and Cuban background, Laura is Indian, and Megan is Chinese Singaporean. And as I mentioned, their music is primarily in English, which makes sense because half the group is made up of Americans. And then broader, English is a lingua franca. They're trying to appeal to the globe. But so far, they've released a song that's incorporated another language, and they said that they have hope to do that more in the future. And of course, the song I'm talking about is Gabriela, which is a Latin R&B song, and there's a bridge in Spanish, which Daniela sings. And also, I don't want to come off as saying like, oh, the only way that you can showcase your culture in a song is to sing lyrics in a different language. I'm not saying that, and I'm certain fans also wouldn't mind seeing these influences in the production, or even some of the visual references, or the music videos. Like, for example, aside from the Spanish lyrics included in Gabriela, the music video was also inspired by telenovelas. And I feel like the multiculturalism of Katseye is starting to be not necessarily a point of criticism, but maybe like a growing pain the group might have to not work around, because I don't think people want them to work around it. But I have been seeing, especially because they just started a tour and they're promoting this unreleased song called Internet Girl, I've seen people say, oh my goodness, we're getting another gnarly-esque song, something silly, something avant-garde. How come instead of getting songs where the girls get to showcase their cultures, their backgrounds, infuse that into the lyrics, infuse that into the music, we're doing Internet Girl? And to that I say, I don't have an answer. I'm not on the Katseye team. I don't make any decisions for Katseye. But I will say that maybe there is a larger plan, a larger picture here. Because when Gnarly came out, I was like, what are they doing? Clearly they had a vision and it worked out. So maybe they're riding the Gnarly train. Maybe they've got something different entirely in the works. But again, I have seen people say, I hope as they grow, as their discography grows, we get some different cultural touch points. Because it seems like if there's a group that we're going to get it from, Katseye, they definitely seem like strong contenders. Another thing both groups have in common is their formation on some sort of media entity first. And I know you're thinking, of course it's media, they're pop groups. But what I mean more specifically is that the Cheetah Girls originally came from movies, books before that, and then in terms of Katseye, they came from a reality show, also known as a survival show. And so the first Cheetah Girls movie came out in 2003, and at that point, it was just meant to be an adaptation of Deborah Gregory's series of the same name, and the first book in the series came out in 1999. So at its inception, the Cheetah Girls was just meant to be a musical DCOM, which was still a huge step for Disney because the Cheetah Girls was actually their first musical DCOM. But it's a little mind-blowing to me that they did not plan for the Cheetah Girls to also be a successful recording act outside of the movies, or fans to want to see those songs they fell in love with in the movies live on tour. They headlined 3 concert tours of their own, and then they were also opening acts for acts like the Jonas Brothers, as well as Ally and AJ, which are with popular Disney groups, and I also believe that they were on the Disney label Hollywood Records, just like the Cheetah Girls. And then aside from the actual tours, the Cheetah Girls did a lot of promotions on music-related shows, you know, here and there. The Cheetah Girls weren't on 106 and Park or anything like that, and then they did a lot of morning shows, like things like Good Morning America, things of that nature. And then on top of that, they were also featured on soundtracks for other Disney movies. The Chicken Little one is coming to mind. And the Cheetah Girls and their music, their soundtracks, they were so successful, in fact, that their first 2 soundtracks, they're still some of Disney's highest selling, and they're basically Disney's main musical act until High School Musical came pretty shortly after. And then Katseye, like I've mentioned, they were formed on the survival show Dream Academy, which is a competition, sort of like an American Idol survival show, but they're forming a group, so there's multiple winners, not just one. And something else that I noticed is that the first Cheetah Girls movie premiered in 2003, and then coincidentally, Katseye revealed their group name and their members in 2023, so 20 years later. But technically, they wouldn't put out their first song until the year followed. Initially, the Dream Academy show had 20 contestants from several different countries, and of course, they were all vying for a spot in the group that became Katseye. So Dream Academy kind of documented the formation of Katseye, the challenges that the contestants would have to go through to either make it into the group or not make it into the group. And then just last year, the group also had Pop Star Academy premiere on Netflix. And this is another docuseries, and it goes deeper into the formation of Katseye and focuses more on the members since we now know who they are. And it also checks in with the group post-debut, since their debut single, aptly named Debut, had been released by that point. And then on top of that, the series also dives a little bit into the K-pop system, especially in terms of their rigorous training and the emphasis on choreography, as well as their more fan-focused engagements like the live chats that the group does on Weverse, as well as the physical collectibles and photo cards. And then also specifically for Katseye, the marketing of the mini album with as much pomp, circumstance, and inclusions as a standard album, which is extremely popular in K-pop. So a lot of the K-pop marketing and training, how exactly is that being implemented in Katseye? That's touched on. And the final thing that I would say both groups have in common is them mainly marketing to younger girls. Pretty obvious one, I think. The Cheetah Girls obviously were marketed towards little girls and tweens, maybe pushing upon teenagers outside of the movies just in terms of the music, but definitely geared towards kids and tweens, made very obvious by the fact that they were a Disney Channel property. And then I'm sure a lot of you guys know half the group, Keely Williams and Adrienne Bailon, they were members of 3LW, which was an R&B girl group that wasn't even necessarily active while the Cheetah Girls movies were airing, but I think they officially broke up in 2007. That way, Keely and Adrienne could focus more on the Cheetah Girls. And in terms of the movies, the characters are freshmen, which they mention in the movie, so about 14, 15 years old, and I can't remember if Cheetah Girls 2 takes place at the end of their freshman year, or it's the following school year and they're going into summer break of their sophomore year. I'm gonna assume that's the case. But anyway, in the first movie, while the characters were playing high school freshmen, the actresses themselves, they were between the ages of 17 and 20, with Keely being the youngest. And then Raven was 18 and Sabrina was 19, and Adrian at 20 was the oldest. And the first Cheetah Girls movie came out in 2003, so by 2008, which is when Cheetah Girls One World premiered, of course, all the members were 5 years older, so between the ages of 22 and 25. And I'm pretty sure in that movie, they did a time skip to put them in college or something, but they definitely were not playing high schoolers. And aside from other factors that complicated things for the Cheetah Girls, I will say like the clashing personalities and then the movie ratings going down partly because their fans were growing up. The Cheetah Girls themselves also wanted to pursue more mature musical concepts, which you can't necessarily do as a Cheetah Girl while you're on the Hollywood Records label that is tied to Disney. And then in terms of Katseye, age is definitely a factor in terms of their appeal. And sometimes there is a question, a problem to others, as in what age group is Katseye intended to appeal to? So it seems like the quote-unquote problem the Cheetah Girls had with everyone growing up, which, that's inevitable. Most of the criticism for Katseye is that the group, or the labels Hybe and Geffen, are over-sexualizing the girls or have them lean super heavily into sexualization for their marketing. In my opinion, I wouldn't necessarily say that Katseye is marketing directly to children, but I also can't sit here and say they didn't intend for younger kids to be their fans, because younger girls are probably who they mainly had in mind. And then on top of that assumption, I could back it up with the fact that they've partnered with brands, popular with but not exclusive to that younger age group, like doing the Monster High dolls and recording their Fright song, which I'm pretty sure is a cover of their theme song. And just in terms of several of their marketing moves and brand partnerships in general, I've come across a lot of Katseye fans. Icons, they're called, which I just found out recently. But anyway, a lot of them are saying it feels like their marketing moves are odd. One that I've seen quite a bit of criticism for was their Census collection, which is a collaboration with 5Gum that released last month. The announcement on 5Gum's Instagram account reads, "From October 6th to October 11th, the 5Gum and Katseye Census collection will drop one member's personal collection, which includes a cornucopia of sensory details. Each of the 6 drops, one for each member, will include a glass marble that fuses each member's iris hue with the colors of 5Gum, a Katseye autographed Beautiful Chaos album vinyl, a 5Gum wrapper that's been kissed by a member, and the gum itself whose scent has been infused with the breath of a member who sang into the bottle of a one-of-a-kind room spray." In a series of tweets, which I do have on the screen, they went further into detail for each part of the collection, but if from what I read you're thinking it's odd, you are not alone. And that's even with people having already been familiar that the senses, or the concept of sensory overload, that's kind of the point of most 5Gum campaigns. But that doesn't mean that people were sitting here expecting people's breath to be infused into anything. And then aside from it generally turning some heads, other people were side-eyeing even more, saying, wow, that's exactly what you could have predicted from a campaign like this. When member Yunche, who's the youngest member of the group, her collection sold out the fastest. Articles talking about it said that it pretty much sold out instantly. Since she's still only 17, people noted how odd it was that people wanted to buy something that a teenager's kiss mark was on, even if it's not a real one, or that their breath was infused in. And of course, while some people buying these things are most definitely Katseye fans, I think it's probably fair to say a lot of them weren't and were just grown creeps buying it. And if anyone with any common sense could have come to that conclusion, it's pretty obvious the labels are well aware and decided to do the collab anyway, because obsession sells. Whether it's obsessed with the music, I'm just a fan, or I'm obsessed with this minor, I'm a creep. And currently, like I said, Yunche, who's the youngest member of the group, she is 17, Megan's 19, Laura's 20, Daniela's 21, Sophia's 22, and Manon is 23. So a pretty decent age gap between Manon and Yunche. And just days ago, I saw a post about Laura because her birthday just passed, with someone saying the Katseye members' ages make them uncomfortable, and I was assuming, just from what I've seen in the conversation I've seen about them, they meant that in a way that implied that they're uncomfortable with the group being over-sexualized, not only in this current moment, but over the past year and some change that they've been active, because obviously they were younger then, and even younger when they were contestants on Dream Academy. I know this is something that's been brought up quite a few times before, with Laura specifically, how often the members are given costumes that are too revealing, to the point where you can't even really necessarily argue that it's just to make it easier for them to dance in. And I've seen people bring that up about some of their performance outfits that they wear for their stages. Then I also saw a few people saying the same when they did their milkshake ad for GAP. And I feel like it's definitely a back and forth thing because people online will be like, oh, well, this member said that they love dressing that way or they don't mind this sort of costume. Which, like, there's still some things to unpack even if they did indeed say that, because maybe they like it because it sells. They like it because the audience likes it. So that's definitely a conversation for another day. Meanwhile, it could very much also be the case that you dislike something and you just don't feel comfortable saying so. Or they're of the opinion, which I also happen to agree with, that if you have a minor at all in the group, none of the members, especially the minor, should be wearing anything that's super revealing. But of course, the issue there is that people go in circles saying it's a matter of opinion, what's revealing and what's not, and whose decision it was, and so on and so forth. And so to wrap up, again, this was just a funsies video. I was like, I feel like there's some commonalities I want to address here, and I was in the mood to get into Katseye, but I've also been feeling a little nostalgic lately. And again, I feel like groups like this, they will always be popular. We love a girl group. We love pop music. We love the girl power. And if you have that at your core. So any thoughts, opinions related to Katseye and the Cheetah Girls, things they have in common, things they don't, whatever the vibes, whatever the thoughts are, leave them down in the comments. That way we can chat as we always do. As always, thank you so very much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so that you can stick around for more. Also, if you'd like to become a channel member and get early access to videos, the link is in the description. And again, thank you so very much for watching. I love you all so very much, and we'll see you so very soon. Bye-bye.